Sure. So let's go ahead and get started, everyone. Thank you so much for waiting. So welcome to our webinar series. We feature Discover Core guides every week from around the globe. So as many of you know, our mission is to create advocates for the different communities and projects happening around the world. So although none of us are traveling right now, we wanted to keep those lines of communication open, help kind of give you an update on the purposeful projects we work on and how these different countries are handling this same crisis that we're handling. It looks a little bit different around the world. So what better way than to hear from the source? So without further ado, if you were on last week's webinar, you already know the team, but just quickly, I'm Amanda. I am the marketing manager for Discover Core.
And I'm Angela Bailey. I am the travel specialist here.
I'm Adrian. I'm the travel operations assistant.
And my name's Alex. I'm the operations manager here at Discover Core.
So we have Dyron with us today. Dyron has been working with Discover Core, I think, since 2016. Is that right, Dyron?
Yes. Hi everyone. Hello. My name is Dyron. I have been working for a while with you guys, and I'm very happy. So I've been working with Discover Core. Yes.
Great. Well, Dyron, do you want to just kick us off? Tell us a little bit about yourself and the connections you have with Cuba, and I'll let you take it from here.
Okay. Well, then again, hi everyone. My name is Dayron. I'm Cuban. I was born and raised in Cuba. Been living in the U.S. for about a couple of years. I graduated from the University of Havana, and then I taught English there for a while. I always like to travel around the island and get to know the places and everything. But after teaching at the university for about 6 years, I decided to become a tour guide for Havana Tours, which is one of the biggest companies in Cuba of tourism, and a government-owned company. And there I got closely connected with the Cuban architecture, with the Cuban geography, with the Cuban history, with the music. But for me, it was actually surprising the way in which I was able to connect with the Cuban people at a completely different level that I was totally unaware of. And then I became closer with the Cuban people in that way. And then when I came to the United States, I got in touch with Discover Core so we can actually expand on that nexus that we could have with the Cuban people and have it closer and make our travels more worthy in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely, Dyron. You've been integral in creating all different Cuba programs. So since, I know you still have family in Cuba and you are very connected with our guides there and people who are currently living in Cuba, can you tell us all a little bit about how everyone's handling the COVID crisis and sort of what the overall attitude is there?
Yes, of course. The situation in Cuba, it's a bit difficult to explain at some point, because at the very beginning, the Cuban government was very confident that nothing was going to happen. And they even Hello? Mike? Oh, there you go. Yeah. And they even made, can you hear me? You good?
We can hear you, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Can you see me now?
There you are. We can see you.
There you go. There you go. Okay. Like this better or? Yeah, either way. So, hi everyone. Hello again. So the thing is, at the very beginning, they were too confident in that regard. They even said that all tourists should have nothing to be afraid of that. They should just go to Cuba and not be afraid of anything. And then because of that, a lot more tourists started to go to Cuba. Havana Tours, a big company, they even launched a campaign in a way mocking the virus, saying the Cuban sun is perfect for the virus, to kill the virus, and the Cuban beaches are ideal against the virus. They said these things, which was highly inappropriate at the beginning of the virus, of this situation. That was completely ill-regarded and frowned upon by everybody. So they there were more people going to Cuba. And of course, the cases started to increase. We have in Cuba over 400 cases, actually 456 cases right now. The problem is that yesterday, the government said that the cases that were now being transmitted were like native cases, moving them from people to people, and they were not able to track their origin. Because like up to last week, they were able to trace the origin back to travelers, to foreigners. But then yesterday, they got a couple of cases that were just from one person to the other, and they have no idea how that person got it. So that is the thing. That is the situation of the virus right now. There are like over 27 people that have recovered, and pretty much about 11 people who have died because of it. There is a lot of people in isolation. And the thing is that the Cuban government is taking it very seriously. There are like a couple of towns that are in completely locked down, surrounded by police. You cannot go out. If you want to go in, you have to have a card saying that strong reasons for which you're going into that place or out. You cannot go out on the street in some isolated places, maybe in Vedado area, just a highly populated area in Havana. And we are urging people to stay in their homes and not to go out, which is a good thing. In my opinion, is the only valid way so as not to let this virus expand. The problem is with the food. That in Cuba, the food is rather, there's a shortage of food, not as much as in the United States, of course. So you have to go out to get your food. When you go out, there's a lot of people waiting in a long line because it's not just go in and buy and leave. So you have to stay for a long time at the stores, which they don't have many products. And that is the main issue. People still have to go out. The government is taking care of some senior people, like older people. The government is actually delivering food to them. Talking about 15 houses, 15 people overall. Not a lot, but it's a significant number in Havana and a couple of other places as well. About 15 people, but the government is actually taking care of them, like delivering food to them. And trying to establish systems in which they can start delivering food, but that is just the beginning. It's actually starting now. So because we don't have that structure. Delivering food in the United States is a very common thing. In Cuba, it is not. They're new to that because then again, not everybody has fast internet. So that is not an easy thing to do. That is pretty much the situation right now. The thing is that, Amanda, people in Cuba are used to hugging, they're used to kissing, they're used to going out, they're used to partying and drinking and sharing with their friends and walking, and now they can't do that. Like most of the places in the world, the most highly populated, densely populated areas in Havana are completely empty. Nobody's out, they are taking it seriously. The good thing is that being a communist regime, the government is actually taking care of everything there and is pressing and pushing people not to go out through the police. And people, it's not like they can do whatever they want. They can't. They have to follow the law. There have been people who's been stealing. They have been stealing masks to sell in the black market. Over 3,000 masks. They did that, and they got caught. And they are in prison right now. There was a bunch of people from the manager of the facility of the store, of the warehouse, to the drivers who actually took the masks to sell it to a certain house or something. So that is what is going on. They are being very strict with anybody that is doing anything in the black market or corruption or anything. Pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So you can have an idea what is going on. Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea any of that was going on in Cuba. So that's really interesting. I'll go ahead and start with the first question here, which kind of goes is a good segue into what you were talking about. We know that Cuba doesn't have the most reliable internet, and much of Cuba doesn't even have internet at all. Is the response? How are people getting their news? Are they hearing about these things through I mean, it can't really be word of mouth, right? So I guess how is everyone keeping tabs on everything?
Okay, well, the majority of people are relying on what the Cuban government tells them.
Yeah.
So they turn on their TVs and they just listen to the news, the Cuban news. They might have some veracity to it, perhaps not so much, but at least there is something that they can get. Nevertheless, right now, having internet in Cuba is a lot easier than it used to be 5 years ago, even 3 years ago. It has improved. And more people are having their phones. I can connect with every one of my friends through internet right now, because of all these things. So it's a lot easier to have them. For those who don't have it, they just put it online in the Cuban news. But most likely they get it from the world, all around, through their internet. Internet in Cuba is completely regulated by the government, by a government company. And what people are doing is actually urging this company to reduce the costs, because they have high costs and the connection is very bad. It's very bad. So they're urging the company to actually lower it. There's been a lot of misinformation about that. The company said, yeah, we're going to do it, but actually they've not done anything in that regard yet. So that is pretty much the state of the situation right now.
Okay, interesting. And what does the healthcare system look like in Cuba? And is that something that everyone's worried about there as cases continue to rise?
Yes, they are. It is. The thing is that, for example, most people, right now, every tourist that is still in Cuba, about 1,000, close to 2,000, like 1,500 pretty much, they're right now staying in hotels, all of them. They were in private homes, but then the police got there and brought them directly to hotels. They cannot leave the hotel until their time is back to fly, because now the flights are canceled. So they're living inside a room in a hotel, which they cannot leave. They're not allowed to leave. That is for tourists. From the very beginning, when Cuba started receiving cases, they started to isolate people, of course. All of the transmission got from people who traveled to Cuba. All the first cases, there were over 100 cases, like 400 cases in Cuba, about 100 were foreigners. And all of them, and the rest was Cubans, most of them who traveled abroad and then came back to Cuba. The thing is that as soon as they identified the person who had it, they isolated from 12 to 15 people around that person. They isolated people from around that person. From 12 to 15 people were isolated and studied before they got the results. And these people who were isolated were allocated whatever the government could find, which means that in campsites, the campsites in Cuba are big. They have a lot of bunk beds, so they were isolated there in these type of compounds. And hospitals are helping out, and of course, all of them. I heard the news today that there were 25 healthcare professionals who got the virus. So yeah, pretty much.
Wow. So Arlene asked a good question. Does Cuba have adequate testing right now?
Then again, according to the Cuban authorities, yes, they haven't. Thing is that Cuba received a significant donation from China, from the Chinese government, and also there was another one coming from Alibaba organization, but that was sent in a ship that was an American ship. So the ship, since it's an American, cannot go to Cuba because of the embargo blockade laws. So all the donation, they could not reach Cuba. But there have been some donations, and I'm sure Cuba has some things. They take these things quite seriously. They are running the tests on every person. The thing is that, for example, they identify a person at the beginning and say, have you had any contact with any foreigner? They try to find a source. If they don't have it, they kind of, by word of mouth, they kind of rule the person out. That was at the very beginning. Right now, they are testing everyone who actually have the symptoms or similar symptoms. So I assume that yes, they should have it. Yeah, I have to trust whatever they do, because otherwise, yeah.
So they told you.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't, yeah.
And then Loretta, just to confirm, did you say you had about 400 cases, and how many deaths so far in Cuba?
456 cases, out of which about 400 are Cubans.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the rest were foreigners. Out of this, about 100, out of the 400 Cubans, about 100, they got the virus abroad, in the United States, in France, in Spain, in Mexico, in Italy. A couple of them from Italy. They came from northern Italy, and they came back to Cuba with the virus. Out of that, about 300, they got the virus in Cuba, right in there. Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, interesting. We also have a question from Heidi. She said she heard that Cuban medical professionals are on an 18-18-18 schedule. Do you know anything about that? Is that true?
They are. Now everybody, the healthcare system, guys, then again, in Cuba, the healthcare system is very good. I trust it completely, but it belongs to the government. They have to do what the government tells them. And right now, the government is doing everything they can to stop this epidemic, this pandemic from expanding. So yes, it is doing like that, like completely, like extra hours. As I said earlier on, about 25 healthcare professionals, they just got diagnosed with the virus. 25 of them, which is everybody else in Cuba pretty much involved in the health system are actually dealing with the virus. We have, one question, we have like 12, as I said earlier, 12 deceased of people who have died from the virus.
Right. Okay.
Most of them, are men. 52% of the cases are men. So.
Yeah, Heidi just clarified. She said that it means 18 days work, 18 days in a dorm, and then 18 days at home.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's like nonstop. They don't have a time off. Yeah. They don't. They have to work all the time, whatever they can. Extra hours. I don't know the exact time that they're doing it, but they are. I do know that they are. Right now, Cuban professionals are in over 14 countries all over the globe. Mm-hmm. We got Cuban doctors in Central America. Well, Cuban doctors in Italy. We got Cuban doctors in Spain. We got Cuban doctors in what else? A couple of other places, guys, all over. And then you have Mexico, you have Ecuador, a lot of places that are in El Salvador that is requesting, like 14 countries are requesting help of Cuban doctors. And they are doing that as well.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Shifting gears a little bit, so the Purposeful Projects, we have a lot of our alumni on the call who have been to Cuba with us before, and then some people who were registered to go to Cuba in the future. So our Purposeful Projects there are, for the most part, Moraleando, the Music and Art Center, and then the different organic farms that we visit. Do you have any contact with them? Do you know how they're doing, how this might be affecting them specifically?
I do not have a contact with the farms right now. I have a contact with all of the guides, and I have a contact with Moraleando, of course. In Moraleando, there are guys. Everybody in Cuba is in their homes. They're not leaving their homes. I was just talking to Manuel, the leader of the project Moraleando, and the other day they were clapping for the doctors worldwide. They will show the video of them clapping. So that is the way they can actually do it. Manuel went the other day to buy some chicken because they didn't have anything to eat, so they needed to buy food. And when he got to the market, the line at the market was too big, so there was no way that he could get any. He had to find out a way to get it. But that is pretty much the situation, everywhere. Pretty much.
So I know you said in Cuba, everyone is all about hugging and interacting and getting drinks. So obviously this is a very stark difference than that. Is there anything you're noticing, anything that the Cuban people are doing to stay band together? I know in America, people are driving by and putting up birthday signs, but it sounds like you can't really leave in Cuba. So I'm just curious to know.
Guys, at first people started to take it. At first they started to take it like they started ignoring it and not believing how serious this thing was, and just making jokes all the time and everything. But then, even from the government, right? But then, right now, for example, the Cuban president was at a cabinet meeting, and everybody was wearing the mask. Every time some government official shows up on the TV, he or she is wearing a mask. Everybody's wearing a mask right now. So they're forcing people to wear masks. I was talking to one of our guides, Monica, and he says, no, when I will go out, I wear a cape, like a raincoat with everything. And then you have mouth covered. I was able to buy good masks, and that's it. When I come back, I wash it and I get back in the house, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For example, we have other guys, or Elvis. Elvis lives in Trinidad. In Trinidad, there were 5 cases. Actually, the first 5 cases that we had in Cuba, they were from Trinidad. But right now, that's it. That was it. No more cases in Trinidad. So the situation there is not bad.
But they still need to stay in their homes, right?
Yes, no, they have to. Then again, this is a government regulation. So yes, they have to stay home. Yeah. Has to do it, and it poses that, and they have to follow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We had a question about Elvis specifically, and if he was still being with us, which of course he is. Favorites. Do you talk to him every once in a while?
Can you say that again?
I was just saying we had still with us.
I don't know. You're breaking. Hold on. Let me check
I
something.
think the connection was breaking up on Amanda's end. She was asking about Elvis, if you've been in contact with him beyond just everything with the coronavirus right now, just how he's doing, and I guess the team in general. For everyone that's here that's been to Cuba, you all know we have a great team of guides that we work with down there. And they're more than guides, they're family to us. Turi, Elvis, Freddie,
exactly.
Monica. And I guess the second question too is these guys don't rely on the government. So they're relying on more or less the quasi-private sector.
Okay, when I said Elvis, I mean, we call it Elvis because sometimes people cannot pronounce the name Elvis. So his actual name is Elvis. We call him Elvis. It's the one that was just talking to you about, talking with you about, that he's from Trinidad. And I just talked to him. He's fine, but only 5 cases in Trinidad. I just talked to him just a while ago. He's in his house, not going out. Turi has, it's then again in his house, going out only to buy food. His wife is carrying right now. It's pregnant. Yeah, it's pretty much some of the update. And Monica, I just told you, and Joel, the photographer, joins us with he's always in the house. I get in contact. I talk to them occasionally, with some more than with others, but yeah, I talk to them regularly. The thing is, Alex, that the purpose of our trips, it's help the Cuban people become independent from the Cuban government. Everything in Cuba is government regulated. It is taught in that regard. So you have to work for the government. At least you had to work for the government about 15 years ago. You have no other choice. Right now, you can make your own money. You can be independent. And that is what we've been doing with these people. So we work with the Cuban people directly, with Cuban artists, with Cuban musicians, with Cuban people directly. So the Cuban regular people, just from any walk of life. And this is the one that we help. So tourism is essential for the life in Cuba. There is no tourism. The government is still not bad, but the people that live on that are suffering, are struggling. Yeah. They have to just come up with their savings. And there's no, like, the thing about the savings in Cuba is that you don't want to bring your money to the bank because you don't want the government to see how much money you have or what you're doing. So most people that have their money, sometimes they have it in the bank, but some have it in their houses or something. Yeah.
So we get this time. Is there anything that we can do from here to support Cuba in any way? Anything you recommend? Any sources?
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Yes, of course. The thing is that uh, for example, guys, the thing is that in Cuba, you cannot send money online from one person to the other as we have here in the United States or everywhere. In here, we have to bring all the help to the person directly. Cuba has received international help by some organizations, by some governments, China, Russia, of course. What we can do is perhaps trying to get our guides, try to give some monetary support to our guides. And these guides can perhaps share it with their neighbors, with the neighbors who need it the most. Because I cannot have one of our guides going all around the island or through all the people that provide service to us and give them money, because that would not be proper. Just perhaps around their homes to the people who need it. If there is some money, some allowance that they could receive, I have the means to get it to them. Yes, I can get it to them. And we will have to trust that. And I trust them that they will be able to share it around the people who need it the most. That I am sure, I'm confident in all of our guys that they will do that. And even Muraleando as well. That is as far as I can reach, our guides and Muraleando.
Okay, great, good to know.
For example, we do have a connection with Tu Sonrisa, that is the children from the Down syndrome of Down. Yeah, the Down syndrome in North Havana, that we have in one of our trips, one of our tours, the family island exploration. I am sure that they would need it, because having a child in this case, of course, I'm sure they would need it. And I can get the money to that organization. Yes, I can get the money to reach that organization, and perhaps we can help them in some way.
Okay, great, good to know. Just for anyone who's listening, we always send this webinar out afterwards, so you'll get it tomorrow, and we'll make it easy if you do want to do something, or if you have any follow-up questions, we can make a connection for you. So great. Just a few more questions. We have someone asking about Gemma, if you have an update on Gemma, and then also, what is Elvis doing in Trinidad?
Elvis,
does he live there?
Yeah, he lives there. He's from Trinidad. I'm sorry. He's from Trinidad. His family there. He's just traveling. I just talked to him like half an hour ago to get him last update. Yeah, he lives there. He lives in Trinidad. As of now, he's working with, he's a lawyer. He graduated as a lawyer, so he's retaking that trend for a bit, see what happens in the future. But yeah, we are going to continue to work with him, of course. I have not had contact with Gemma, no,
okay. We'll see if we can update for you. And we'll have to send it out to this list.
Thank you.
Did you say Freddie is his wife in Trinidad? We would like to get an update on him as well.
Okay, I get in contact with Turi to see how he's. Yeah, I just heard of that recently, and I will let him know. I will get some feedback about whether it's a boy or a girl, and I will let you know, guys, of course.
Okay. Yeah, let us know. We'll send out the information. Excellent.
Of course.
Great.
Good news. I've been keeping up with Turi as well, and Freddie via WhatsApp, and they've been updating me. So, and that was last week. So as of last week, everyone was doing fine, and I'll shoot a message after this as well.
Okay, good. Thank you, Alex. Good.
Perfect. And someone corrected me. They said it's pronounced Hema, not Gemma. I personally have not been to Cuba, so maybe I do not know who this is, but I don't know if you are in touch at all, Dyron.
No, I have not. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I have to reach the guys there. Yes.
She was one of our first guys when we first started in Cuba back in, it was probably 2015.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
Yeah. So
yes.
It was one of our, literally from one of the first trips that we ran down there. So it's interesting. It must be an old school trip.
That it's a good memory. That's a good thing. Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
No,
All
the
right.
thing is that sometimes some guys, they choose a different path. Some guys, they leave the country and we have to get new ones. We always training new guides to work with us. And yeah, we try to keep up the ones that want to stay with us, the ones that have the passion, the interest, and the same, that share the same views always. But there is always new people that share the common interests and goals, and we ask them to join in.
Dyron, I have a question for you actually. Is how do you think, like, with everything going on right now, it's so complex. I mean, the whole world is trying to come to terms with what we're facing. Do you think this will have any impact on the US-Cuban relationship in the long run? I mean, in a positive way? I mean, more cooperation, or do you think that's still politically driven?
Yeah, completely politically driven. Forget about anything else, man. People are taking this virus to speak about things that they shouldn't be talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, the other day, I read a post from a friend of mine who studied with me, that he was saying, we should send a flask with a virus to Diaz-Canel, the president of Cuba. Like, what are you talking about, man? Well, that's not politics we're talking about here. So unfortunately, that still drives people. I have no idea how and why people cannot get over that, especially at these moments. I don't know. What may shift the election? What might shift the elections in some way? Alex, might be the election. I mean, the relations might be the elections in November, perhaps. If something changes, that might be an easier relation between Cuba and the United States, perhaps. Yeah.
All right, the only question we have left is, for everyone who's registered for Cuba, thinking about going to Cuba at some point in the future, we're obviously following the CDC closely here. All of America is. Is there any other news source or any other outlet where people can keep up on Cuba specifically?
Then again, in Cuba, they have internet. They can follow the news, what's going on in the world. Many Cubans, they have relatives abroad. So their relatives inform them of the situation in their respective countries. So I cannot say that Cubans are ignorant of whatever is going on. No, they're not. They know what is going on. Everybody knows what is going on and how serious that is right now. They ignored it at the beginning, but right now they don't. The Cuban government has a very good, very effective medication that is an interferon developed in Cuba, that Cuba sent it to China and had great results in China and is using it in Cuba, of course, completely free. Is an interferon 2B or something. It's very effective. That is one thing. Another thing that is being administered to the patients right now. Another thing the Cuban government is now going to give to everybody is that it's a homeopathic medicine. They started to use the pollen, and they began to work with the pollen from bees and a couple of other things that they made to develop a homeopathic medicine that is going to be delivered to every person right now, so they can at least have a better immune system and in a way put up a better fight against the virus.
Okay, excellent. And then, for us here, I guess we're following Cuban news as well as best we can, just through the CDC. So that seems to be the most trusted resource.
Yeah, but even the CDC, they have to believe whatever the Cuban government is telling them.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
Yeah, they have to go by it.
Yeah, we have a question here from John. Has Cuba discovered anything about whether those who had the virus will become immune to becoming infected again? So this is a question, I think, for the world, right?
I don't know, but
No.
a very good friend of mine, she is the head of epidemiology in one of the biggest municipalities in Cuba. The most densely populated municipality that it is DST October 10th. I can ask her, and I can give back to you a question later. We answer later about that.
Sure. All right. Well, do we have any more questions for Dyron before we wrap up? Dyron, is there anything else that you would like to add?
Yes, of course, guys. First of all, thank you very much. We Cubans, my friends in Cuba, the people that we work with, the people on the street, everybody is very thankful to what you guys have done with Cuba and for Cuba. Just from the moment in which you have shown some interest, in finding the situation in Cuba, in learning how that is, for me, is rewarding as a Cuban. So thank you very much for Discovery course or for you guys are doing. Thank you for all the people who got interest in this and they have answered their questions, very genuine questions. Thank you very much for that. And then again, Cuba relies on tourism and Cuba relies on whatever you have done, and is very thankful for all the things and all the honest interest that you have done with, and have had with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dyron. That's great to hear. For everyone listening, thank you so much for coming. This whole entire webinar was recorded, so I'll make sure that I email it to you tomorrow. Share it with your friends. I'll put it on Facebook. Share it there. If there's any country that you're really interested in hearing from next week, you can always reply to the email, let me know. We're going to do these every week to kind of keep you connected. And yeah, I think next week we're actually going to be featuring Oaxaca in Mexico. So hopefully we'll see you there. Dyron, thank you so much. That was
Pleasure.
so
Thank you,
so
guys.
much
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you, guys. Thank you all. Really. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Amanda.
Thank you. Bye. See you guys next
Bye.
week.
Thanks, Dyron.
Hey, Dyron.
Bye. 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 Bye, guys. Bye.